how their managers were doing, we got unanimous reports of frustration and exhaustion. Similarly, when the research firm Gartner asked 75 HR leaders from companies worldwide how their managers were faring, 68% reported that they were overwhelmed. Nonetheless, according to Gartner, only 14% of those companies had taken steps to help alleviate their managers' burdens. The problem isn't hard to diagnose. The traditional role of the manager evolved in the hierarchical workplaces of the industrial age. But in our fluid, flatter, post-industrial age, that role is beginning to look archaic. The irony is that we actually need great people leaders more than ever. Microsoft has found, for example, that when managers help teams prioritize, nurture their culture, and support work-life balance, employees feel more connected and are more positive about their work. The consulting firm O.C. Tanner has likewise found that weekly one-to-one with managers during uncertain times lead to a 54% increase in engagement, a 31% increase in productivity, a 15% decrease in burnout, and a 16% decrease in depression among employees. Meanwhile, according to McKinsey, having good relationships with their managers is the top factor in employees' job satisfaction, which in turn is the second most important determinant of their overall well-being. Conversely, bad managers can significantly hurt retention and engagement. 75% of the participants in the McKinsey survey reported that the most stressful aspect of their jobs was their immediate boss. As the saying goes, people join companies and leave their managers. Something is clearly broken. If managers remain essential but their traditional role has become obsolete, then it's obviously time for a change. In this article, we'll make the case for redefining and even splitting the role, rather than simply continuing to let it evolve, which is a potentially costly and disastrous course of action. But first, let's briefly take stock of the waves of innovation that have brought us to this crisis point. 4 defining business movements. The first wave, process reengineering, began in about 1990 and lasted until the early 2000s. It focused on eliminating bureaucracy and boosting operational efficiencies. With the help of consulting firms, which developed practices around this kind of work, companies globalized and outsourced their processes, flattened their hierarchies, and in many cases put their remaining managers in player-coach roles that required them to take on workers' tasks. These changes reduced costs, but they also made life a lot harder for managers. They now had wider responsibilities and significantly larger teams to supervise, and were also expected to dedicate themselves personally to projects and customers. The next wave of innovation, digitization, arrived in about 2010. Promisingly, it democratized access to both information and people, but in doing so, it undermined traditional sources of managerial power. CEOs and other senior leaders could now communicate directly with their entire workforces, sharing strategies, priorities, and important updates and responding to concerns. No longer a necessary part of the information loop, managers began to feel a loss of power, control, and status. Then came the Agile movement and its process changes, which companies began to adopt in the mid to late 2010s. It aimed to shorten timelines and turbocharge innovation by using internal marketplaces across whole organizations to match skills to work and to rapidly assemble project teams on an as-needed basis. As a result, managers started to lose touch with their reports, who now spend much of their time under the rotating supervision of the project managers they were temporarily assigned to. And because candidates could be matched to openings online, managers lost the power and authority involved with brokering career opportunities for their people. Finally, a 4th wave arrived in 2020 with the pandemic, when companies